Welcome to the Crowdfunding Roundup. This is a Wednesday edition, meaning I'll be looking at all of the crowdfunding games that launched yesterday on Tuesday, and we have 12 different games to look at today. As always, my videos are tabbed or bookmarked, so you can just scroll over, mouse over the bar there, and perhaps there's a specific game or campaign that you're looking for. Also, everything has links down in the description of the video. So if there is something that you're looking to jump to once you hear information about it in the video, you can just go down into the description section, click on that link, and it will take you right to that campaign. As I mentioned, there's 12 different games that I'll be looking at today. One of them is on Backerkit, one or two of them are on Gamefound, and the rest are all on Kickstarter, but the links will just take you right where you need to go. So the first of these campaigns is for a game called By Fire and Sword. This is a war game, but it's more of a miniatures war game done by a miniatures publisher. So these are kind of edge case in terms of whether I normally would include this or not, but it does have a Board Game Geek listing right here. Although this is a previous edition, a 2009 edition. So I've decided to include it. I won't spend a ton of time on it though. As you can see here, they had a funding goal of $15,000. They're currently at $24,000, so they're funded. They've got 21 days left to go in the campaign, and the campaign will end on April the 13th. It says By Fire and Sword 2, but it's really just the second edition. And if we go down here, we can see that it's being put out by Wargamer Game Studios. They've done a few similar campaigns, generally focusing on miniatures war games. And these kinds of things generally focus much more on the miniatures than on the war game side and the rule set and things like that. So, there's one side of war games that's covered by something like Compass Games that's probably more of a board game publisher that does war games, and then there's this, which is more of a miniatures publisher. So if we look at the various pledge levels, though, you can see that $59 is just going to get you the rule books. There is another $59 pledge for a starter set for one player. There is a second starter set for one player that's $65, so it's a little bit more, and it varies slightly from the first one. Different factions are involved. And then for $99, you have a two-player starter set. There's also a retailer pledge here. But just to give you a quick look at what this campaign is, these are the kinds of miniatures that we're talking about. Now, I don't believe they're going to come painted, and these trays that you kind of put them on are extra. So you'll just be getting the figures, and then if you wanted to add on the trays, you could do that. The grass and the painting, that would all have to be done by you. Here's another shot of what the miniatures look like. And as we go down further, here's another shot. Right, so this is really someone who's more of a miniatures war gamer versus sort of a board game war gamer, because there are kind of subdivisions in the genre. They do have rule books that you can look at, and there are a couple of videos here. And if this is something that you're interested in, so here there's the second edition. So this is really what you're going to be getting in the box here, although I don't believe these are painted like this. Let's keep going down. Okay, these are kind of stretch goals that they've hit. So here's that two-player starter set, which is probably, if you were interested in this is probably what you want to do, get the two-player starter set. Here's just kind of rule books if you had other things, other miniatures, and you wanted to, just kind of craft your own scenarios using their rule books. And then there's some one-player starter sets. And then, as we go down a little bit further, see, these are all various things that you could add on if you really wanted to go heavily into this. There's the retailer pledge. And then here are the trays. So these are things that you'd need to buy additionally if you wanted to group your miniatures together and kind of move them around in groups. And there's different shapes. Obviously, these have kind of rounded bases, and these are rectangular, and these are more rectangular. These are sort of in between square and rectangle, but these are longer rectangles. Yeah. So this should give you an idea for the kind of stuff that is in this campaign. This is really more for miniature wargamers, but I didn't want to neglect it. Okay, our second campaign here is called Dreams of Yesterday. Now this one's over on Backerkit. And as you can see, they had a funding goal of $2,900. They're at $3,900, so this has already funded. The campaign will end on April the 6th. And I think if we go down into the pledge levels, let's see. I may actually have to click on Back It. Or it's probably in the timeline, actually. Let's go down here. Okay, so they're giving themselves kind of a wide range for shipping. They're saying that shipping is going to be started in October, but they're kind of giving themselves into December. So unlike, with most campaigns on Kickstarter where they'll actually give you a month, they're giving you a little bit more of a range, but they're shooting for October. Now, this is being published by Weird Giraffe Games. If we want to take a quick look at it over here on Board Game Geek, here's the game. So it's designed by Heather O'Neill. It's got art by Beth Sobel, who's pretty well known to most gamers, and it's being published by Weird Giraffe Games. And it's a rondel and set collection game, science fiction theme. And the little description here on the Board Game Geek page says, in Dreams of Yesterday, you compete with rival museums to build the best collection of fine art, ancient artifacts, and fossils. As the curator of your museum, you'll use your resources of money, prestige, and knowledge to obtain the best artifacts and create enticing exhibits. But it's not just about collecting the most valuable items. The unique layout of your museum allows you to activate powerful abilities that can rearrange your exhibits, flip cards, and transform resources. Plus, with the addition of the mysterious urn cards, you never know what ancient secrets you might uncover. So at its heart, it's really a simple set collection, but it has a couple of things to distinguish it. Now, in terms of the designer over here, we can see that her highest rated games include Meeple Party, Schrodinger's cats, and Pavlov's dogs, which are, not that highly ranked, so these may not be games that people are familiar with. However, the art is by Beth Sobel, who's done a ton of things that most people are probably familiar with. Wingspan, Viticulture, Cascadia, Calico, Arboretum, Between Two Cities, Lanterns, Snowtails, Three Sisters, Herbaceous, Circle the Wagons, World's Fair 1893, Verdant, Tussie Mussy, Path of Light and Shadow, Endangered, Sunset Over Water, Coldwater Crown. That's a lot of titles. Welcome to Dino World. Beth is an amazing artist. Now, Weird Giraffe Games is the publisher, and the games that they've done that people might be familiar with include Tumbletown, Fire in the Library, Gift of Tulips, and Dreams of Tomorrow, right? Which is interesting because this one is Dreams of Yesterday. So let's take a quick look and see what Beth Sobel's art is going to look like in this game. Again, remember, it's a relatively simple set collection game. Okay, so there we can see the cards and the iconography. There's some videos if you want to check out some of the gameplay in more detail. So they say here, on a player's turn, they can move 1 or 2 spaces in the histories for free. Then they can take a resource or buy an artifact. Players may spend additional resources to flip cards or move additional spaces. Remember, this is also a rondel. So you're going to be going around in a circle to take your action. To finish their turn, the player draws a card from the deck, chooses a side, then places it in the space that they started in. The next player now starts from the new space. Okay, so pledge levels for this, again, it's a smaller card game, it's a set collection game, so it's going to have a small pledge, $9 for the game, and then you've got some bundles with other games. Yeah, you can bundle it with Motley, that's $16. They've got a bundle with Dreams of Tomorrow, which is a bit of a bigger game, so this one has a pledge price of $36. And there's also a print and play here for $5. Now, as far as shipping goes, we estimate that the shipping cost will be $5, regardless of where you live. So, along with that $9, you're looking at a $14 pledge for this game. And again, they're shooting to deliver it in October, but giving themselves some leeway through December. And again, this one's over on Backerkit. From there, we're going to go back to Kickstarter for a game called Ecosfera, Rewilding the World. This had a pledge of, or a funding goal of $9,700, and they're at about $15,000. So this one is already funded as well. Let's take a quick look at it over here. Okay, so we've got a couple of designers. One of the designers is also the artist, and the publisher here is called Julibert Games. Now, in terms of the categories, they list animals, card game, educational, environmental. It's a cooperative game, and it has deck, bag, and pool building. And it's actually deck building, as it says over here. Ecosfera is a cooperative deck building game with different levels of difficulty where we must restore nature before it's too late. Water, time, earth, air, and sun. These are the elements that you will use to get cards from the plant and the fungi kingdom. But be aware, there are also natural disaster cards. Luckily, we have extra abilities such as changing cards, extra cards, and passing a card to another player. So again, this is a rather simple card game, deck builder, and you can see that I think, let's see if both designers work together. Yeah, and so they collaborated on one other game called We Can Play Women Who Changed the World, and Albert also did do the art for that. And I think the publisher, yep, so these are their two games. This is the second game from this entire team. Okay, so here is what the art looks like. Here's some of the cards. There's a Tom Vassell quote. Ecosfera really encourages players to cooperate to solve the puzzle by giving cards, working together, and more, a unique twist on deck building. And I like the art. It's pretty sharp. Okay, so if you are just pledging the game, well, there's a print and play for 10 euros. The game itself, this Kickstarter edition, is $30. And then you've got an expansion. I mean, this comes with the game as well. So this just adds in the expansion for $49. And if we're looking at also including the shipping and these prices, they're saying, let's see, to the USA, $14 for or 14 euros for shipping, which is $15. So that would mean that the base game is going to be about 45, and if you get it with the expansion, you're looking at about 64. And everything I think after that is for multiple copies of the game. And then, you know, this one has some signed posters in it, and then there's probably a retailer pledge probably somewhere. Maybe that's it. Well, it's a Kickstarter edition times 4, so multiple copies. Anyway, another kind of simple game here. This one a deck builder, and you know, I think both of these games with some really sharp art. Now, from there, we're going to go over to Gamefound for this game called Flutter from Phase Shift Games. This one had a funding goal of almost $6,000. No, I'm sorry, $9,500, and they're at $6,000. So they haven't funded yet. And I always say that campaigns will normally do about 2/3 of their business in the first 48 hours and about 1/3 of their business in the final 24 hours, which means they're just at about, I mean, they're under 2/3, right? Just slightly under 2/3. So whether or not this funds is very tenuous at this moment in time. Let's take a quick look at it over on Board Game Geek. Okay, so an abstract strategy game with animals, sort of a children's game, environmental, and the mechanisms are matching open drafting, rondel, and tile placement. Features insects and flowers. And I'm curious, let's look through some of the art here. All right, so it's a tile placement game. Oh, sure, I remember this one, with these butterfly tiles and some kind of wooden butterflies you put on them as well. Or actually, those are wooden bees, aren't they? So butterfly tiles, wooden bees. And let's check out the designer here. So first time for the designer and for the artist, Stephen Tu. He's worked before on Habitat's Factory Funner, Roll to the Top. I believe these are all with, Corn Van Morsel's company. Is it Siwali? Yeah. So both of the previous games are Siwali, and then Roll to the Top. Yeah, also Siwali. So he's done a lot with Siwali. Okay, so back to Flutter over here. Give you a better look at these butterfly tiles and the bee meeples, I guess. Wooden pieces, anyway. So they describe this here, saying, immerse yourself in the wonder of nature and create a vibrant meadow bursting with flowers to attract the most vital creatures of the ecosystem. Among them are the graceful hummingbirds, swift dragonflies, flittering moths, delicate butterflies, and the revered bees, the king of all pollinators. With each turn, players strategically place uniquely shaped tiles aiming to match flowers and earn precious petal tokens. But it doesn't end there. It's about nurturing the ecosystem by providing the right flowers to each fluttering critter so it can spread its rich pollen across the land. As the game progresses, players will work to enclose tiles, providing the pollinators with all the flowers they require to produce valuable pollen. If you're clever enough to use your bee tokens strategically, you can earn bonus pollen. Don't take too long to make your move, though. The supply rondel is running low, and once a single stack of tiles is emptied, the game comes to an end. And you can see, as it goes around, the tiles that are populating the main board do come from this rondel. So as soon as one of these is exhausted, that will trigger the end game. The player with the most pollen at the end of the game will be crowned the winner and earn the admiration of all the pollinators in the meadow. So it's designed as, it says, very family friendly here. It's designed as a family game and a children's game, but it's also kind of obviously this abstract puzzle game. Now, $29 will get you the game itself, but if you pledge at this $59 pledge level, you will have some of your pieces, including the tiles, it looks like, upgraded to wood. I think, did I mention this at the top? No, I didn't. So this campaign will conclude on April 20th, and they're shooting to deliver this in December 2023. But again, this may or may not fund. It's kind of right on the line right now. But this is a kind of 3 in a row, I think, of a simple, more lightweight game that's very family friendly. And they've got a nice storage solution here for it as well. Okay, so that one is over on Gamefound. And there's some videos if you want to take a closer look at some of the gameplay. Shipping, we should mention this quickly here. Shipping, the US, continental and military, $15 to $20, which is not cheap considering the price of the game, right? So I'm curious now, where is Phase Shift Games, the publisher? Oh, they did Dungeon Drop. Okay, so they have done... they're best known for Dungeon Drop and Drop Drive, which are essentially 2 similar games, similar mechanics, different themes, and this Tavern Tales Legends of Dungeon Drop. I'm just curious what country they're out of with that shipping price. And they don't say here, but let me do a quick check on their website. Let's see if it says here. It feels like it's probably UK to me, but I thought I remembered Drop Drive being an American production. But here are some of their other games if you're curious. Okay, it's Plantsville, Connecticut. So it is in the US, but it just has very high shipping. So we're looking at $20 for shipping. That means that the base game would cost you $49 and the wood edition would be brought up to $79. Yep. Actually, maybe 80, because they do list the max here as $1 more for the wood edition. Okay, from there we're going to go back to Kickstarter to take a look at this game called Forge. This one has a funding goal of almost $11,000. They're at $7,300, so this likely will fund, although it hasn't funded yet. The campaign will complete on April the 13th, and the game will ship in, November 2023. It's being put out by Fundamental Games, which I'm vaguely familiar with. Let's see, Roll or Die, I've heard of this. Questeros, Die in the Dungeon. So they have Legends of Novus, so they have a few things that I'm sort of familiar with. Let's just quickly go over here to look them up on Board Game Geek and check out the designer and artist. Wesley Woodbury. I believe Fundamental Games is Wesley's company. And the artist is Horia Gabriel Andre. Okay, so Wesley Woodbury has, in the past, designed those same games. So yeah, it's basically, it's his company. And he's designed Legends of Novus, Die in the Dungeon, Duel of the Dragons, Dungeon Makers, Questeros, Roll or Die. And the artist, this is the first time for the artist. Okay, let's get that out of here. Okay, back to Forge. Okay, a strategic game of medieval forging. Develop your smithy, forge your victory. I do like just the look of this. The boards and the kind of wooden pieces. 1 to 4 players, 60 to 90 minutes. This gives you kind of a look at the game board with the player mats around it. It is a worker placement strategy game in which players take on the role of medieval blacksmiths. In a trade where reputation means everything, you strive to earn the respect of your customers and peers. To do so, you will complete contracts, develop your smithy, train your apprentices, and race to earn achievements. It sounds like your kind of, usual grab bag of mechanics in a worker placement game, contracts and ways to kind of upgrade things and various goal cards. But I those games are usually a hit for a reason, and I'm kind of liking the look of this. And it's a little bit different. It's got this blacksmithing theme. There's plenty of fantasy games out there, but I don't think I know any games where you play competing blacksmiths. So that's it's interesting. I like the iconography that we're seeing and, the kind of the wooden pieces. All right. If you are thinking about backing this one, let's see. I'm just kind of scrolling through some of the pledge manager type stuff, or this is just like a placeholder for the retailers. So the lowest pledge here is this $55. This is Canadian, so in US it's $55. And is that the only one? No, there is one more. Well, this is for 2 copies of the game, and shipping one as a gift or donation. So really it's just this one copy for $55. That is essentially your pledge if you're going to pledge this. Okay. And the shipping is $12, which would bring the whole shebang to $67. They do have a rule book if you want to read it. There's a video from The Hungry Gamer, some other videos as well. And I'm sort of curious to look into this one a little bit more myself. Okay. Anyway, that is Forge. Then we come to Galactic Renaissance, and this is, as it says right here on the front page, from the designer of Inish, and this is the second game in a trilogy that they have planned, and I think it's interesting here because this game has a bit of a smaller footprint. So if you recently backed the big Kemet campaign that Madagascar put out, and then you went all in for Yucatan, you're not necessarily getting a third game that's very similar to those games with this. This is a bit different. So they have a funding goal here of almost $54,000. They're at $86,000 almost, so they're funded. Up top, they're billing this as expand your influence over the galaxy in a political battle game from Christian Martinez, the designer of Inish. This will complete its campaign on April 11th. It's also being published by Madagascar, just as Kemet and Yucatan were. And let's look at our pledge levels. Well, and it's delivering in March 2024. So this one's a bit further off in terms of delivery. So they've got one pledge here for $81, and that is really, it's kind of like the previous one for Forge. That's it. So if you are backing this, that's your pledge. Let's check out what shipping would be. Okay, so delivery cost, North America, 22 euros. I think Madagascar is based in the UK. So $22 will be $24. So it's not inexpensive shipping, right? It's an $81 game with $24 shipping. So you're looking at a total of $105 for the whole thing. Now let's just take a quick look through some of this. They say here, throughout Galactic Renaissance, you build your team, adding new specialists to the core in your deck of cards. With this team, you discover new planets and systems, reconnect with lost civilizations, expand your influence, build embassies, and sow disorder in opposing factions. You send emissaries to new planets, for example, allowing you to discover new civilizations or cement relationships on known planets. Opponents may try to convince a planet to join them instead with their own emissaries, causing disorder in the process. Expand your influence over the galaxy in a political battle game from Christian Martinez. And as you can see, these are the components. So there are some smaller miniatures in this, but this isn't one of those kind of big, like Kemet, like Inish, like Yucatan. It isn't one of those big, sprawling area control games with a giant map and all of these really expensive miniatures, right? You've got some miniatures in the game. I mean, they're keeping it, appealing to that level of gamer with some pretty plastic, but it is got a smaller footprint, and it's more about sort of the political negotiation aspect than this big kind of dudes on a map game. So there are these smaller boards that you'll be dealing with, but it's very kind of much more about those strategic choices that you're making. And just building a game around that without this kind of huge footprint taking up all this table space. So here they say, summary of gameplay, build up your team, recruit unique specialists, each with their own abilities, explore the galaxy, travel through portals to reconnect with lost civilization, and this is where those kind of smaller boards will come into play, expand your influence, send your emissaries to cement your relationships across the galaxy, get some reviews, got to look at sort of these various boards and these kind of miniatures. And I mean, it looks really cool to me. And I think, I don't know if I'm going to back this, but it makes it an easier back for me knowing that I'm not getting another big game like those other three. That it's going to kind of stand on its own, do something a little bit different, and, have a smaller footprint on the table, but also do something a little bit different. Okay, these are kind of Kickstarter exclusives that have been unlocked. Some more cards, component upgrade here, another new planet with another board, and then they're kind of describing the gameplay here in GIFs. I'm actually kind of curious. Let's just take a quick look through the GIFs. Okay, play operation cards, use those portals, resolve disorders, if any. So there is going to be some kind of area control, basically. And activate your planets. I like it. I like that it's a little bit different than some of those other games from what we're seeing so far. You've got some videos down here, too, if you want to check these out. And I'm just trying to see if there's, a bunch of add-ons or not. And it doesn't look like there is. No. Okay. So I think it's going to be, a simpler pledge and a simple decision. So it's with shipping in the US, $105 all in if you want to pledge this. And it doesn't seem like there's going to be a bunch of stuff added on later. Now, just if you're curious, before we leave this one, let's take a quick look at it on BGG. So it is for 2 to 4 players. They list it here as card game, political, space exploration, and then the mechanisms as action drafting, area majority influence, deck bag and pool building with a modular board. And it is available on Tabletop Simulator. So if you want to go check it out there before you back, you can do that. Okay, so yeah, this is the second installment of the political trilogy. Do they have that? No, they don't have it down here. Madagascar has dubbed it as the first installment of their political trilogy. So they're going to do 2 more games that are kind of related thematically. Galactic Renaissance is the second one, same designer. And at some point, there'll be a third. It is funded, and we know everything about it. There's one pledge price. And what did we say it was? Right, 2022, so 24, and the whole thing, $105. Okay. Moving on, we've got the Knights of King Frea. Now, this one is very unlikely to fund. They have a funding goal here of $9,700. They're at $1,700, so super unlikely. The campaign will end on April 18th. This publisher has only done one other game, so they're very green. And that other game was, it was this game, and it didn't fund. So they're still trying to get this their first game funded. Okay, so the Knights of King Frea, you can see that the card art here is it's kind of underproduced, right? Which is probably why it hasn't really taken off. You launch on a Tuesday, and you've got some big games. The first, I think, 3 games that we looked at weren't necessarily big games, but they did have some production, a certain level of production behind them. One of them had Beth Sobel art. So, she's one of the best artists in the business. So this is just kind of can't compete. This is, very kind of low production level. So there's an early bird that's still running for 10 more hours for $24. Once that's done, pledges will be $27. Shipping is probably like $13. So you're looking at $40 for the whole thing. And mostly a card game, kind of low production level. They say here, King Frea, the ruler of Weirdland, has issued a competition between his knights. Whomever will impress the king with his feats, fame, and of course riches will get the priceless hand of one of his daughters or sons as a reward. The fairest of them all, it's a promise. No scam. No, really, we are not in debts, and I'm not just looking to get rid of anyone. Best regards, the king. So let's take a quick look at it over on BGG. Okay, so it's a game for 1 to 6 players. I'm just going to take a quick look at so the designers, this is like their first time for these guys. It's an adventure game, card game, fantasy, humor, medieval, a party game with hand management, matching set collection. Can be played as a solo solitary game. It has take that and trick taking. So that is the Knights of King Frea. Unfortunately, I would be shocked if it funded. It's just not going to make it there with this lack of a lead early on. Okay, from there, we're going to let's go to Japan, which is, going from one end of the spectrum to the other. This game is designed by Josh Wood. He has done The Cat Lady and Santa Monica. He makes very light games, but very well-produced games. Usually they're beautiful to look at, and they just play sublimely. I'm not a huge fan of light games in general. I'm more of a heavier gamer myself, but I do own both of those games of his. So there's a funding goal here of $10,000. It's $267,000. So it is hugely funded, and based on everything that I know about Josh Wood and his designs, this is very well deserved. I would not hesitate to back a Josh Wood game. I think if you kind of are newer to the hobby, or you're looking for like a lighter game, he makes games that are super accessible, and they're usually just so much fun to play. And I think you would have to hate fun, even as a heavier gamer, to not want to play a Josh Wood game. Okay, so this campaign will wrap on April 10th. It's being published by Alderac Entertainment Group, which is a very well-known, huge publisher. Like I don't want to say no risk. Well, I do, no risk. But as low risk as you could really get if it's coming out of AEG. So here's kind of a look at this. Obviously, it's a card game, kind of some tableau buildings going on. It says, earn points by making the most out of your favorite activities and fulfilling your personal goals. Rado likes it. What's in the box? Okay, so there's your standard edition. You've got these tarot side cards, which is going to be great because the art on it looks awesome. Let's see who's the artist. Let's go to Japan. Okay, so there are actually a few artists. Let's see what they have all done. Let's look at what everyone's done. So Josh Wood, as I mentioned, has done Cat Lady, Santa Monica. Oh, right. He did some work on all the, not on the base game of Tiny Towns, but on all of the expansions. Okay, so we've got the first artist, Chekhov, is working on, in-board games for the first time with this. Kayleen Falls, again, first timer. Toshiyuki Hara, first time published. Magdalena Pruckner, first time published. Well, they found some great artists. Erica Ward. I mean, I'm loving the art, just from what we've seen so far. And then AEG, if you're curious, has published Cascadia, Istanbul, War Chest, Space Base, Calico, Love Letter, Tiny Towns, Thunderstone Quest, Cubitos, Point Salad, Mystic Vale, Dead Reckoning, Trains, Smash Up, Thunderstone Advance, The Guild of Merchant Explorers, more Lovecraft things, Istanbul the Dice Game, more Smash Up, Automobiles. They've done a bunch of things, a bunch of games. This one is a card game that features travel with closed drafting, set collection, and storytelling. So it says here in Let's Go to Japan, you are a traveler planning, then experiencing your own dream vacation to Japan. The game consists of 13 rounds in which players draw activity cards illustrated by Japan-based artists and strategically place them in different days in their week-long itinerary. These can't-miss tourist attractions will have you bouncing between Tokyo and Kyoto as you try to puzzle out the optimal activities to maximize your experience while balancing your resources. You really are like trying to plan out a trip and not over plan so that you can't get to the things, which I'm in the process of planning a couple trips right now, and having taken a bunch of trips, I know that's always a big thing is not over planning. The game ends with a final round in which you ultimately go on your planned trip, activating each of your cards in order along the way. So let's just continue taking a look at this. I mean, the art is awesome. There's the player boards, and I like a good tableau building game. And they have an edition here that is wrapped in furoshiki cloth, which is pretty cool. Although, it's not going to fit in a calyx like that and sit flush with other games. It's going to be a centerpiece in one way or another. Okay, so they've already had some things. Fifth player's been added. Tokens upgraded to wood. Train tokens upgraded to wood. Here's some more of that card art. And here's a look at the gameplay. So you're going to draft activity cards, place them into your itinerary. You can place them on the bottom, middle, or top of a stack. Or you may discard a card to go for a walk and explore the city at the end of the game. This looks really cool to me. These are the kinds of light games I like to have in my collection. They're just super fun to play, just always a joy to play. And, you know, Josh Wood makes games that are just everyone can enjoy, and they're pretty easy to teach and easy to understand and latch onto. To travel between cities, add train ticket tokens between activities. Finally, go on your trip to Japan to activate and square your cards, starting with Monday. They've got a rulebook here if you want to read that. All right, what do they have in the way of add-ons? So they've got neoprene player mats with stitched edges, and these are kind of strangely shaped player mats. They're kind of longer and thinner. There's a day trip expansion, which if you get the Matsuri edition, it's going to come with it. I should mention these neoprene player mats come with a storage box. And then, let's say, a passport expansion, which is free if you sign up on their mailing list. Let's take a quick look at the pledge levels. So for $39, you can pledge the Sightseer pledge, which is, you know, basically the base game, stretch goals, social goals. Then for $69, they've got this Festival Goer pledge, which will come wrapped in the furoshiki cloth. And I think you get these ceramic bowls with this level. So this is the Matsuri edition. Okay. So this is going to come with the day trip expansion. Now these pledges that's $30 more. You're getting the day trip expansion, which is a $10, cost. So you're still paying an extra $20 extra. I guess the question is, what else? Does it just come wrapped in furoshiki cloth? It looks... They say there are Kickstarter exclusives. Oh, and the ceramic bowls. So you've got the ceramic bowls, the day trip expansion, the furoshiki cloth, and Kickstarter exclusives. Let's try to find out what those are. Shipping. So for the US here, this bigger pledge is going to come to $83, and the smaller pledge is $52. So 52 and 83. Here are the various artists. Here you can see these ceramic bowls that come in that, more expensive pledge. All stretch goals. Kickstarter exclusive upgrades. Okay, so I want to see what the upgrades are, because the social goals come with everything. Those are stretch goals, which come with everything. So the upgrades, the day trip expansion, we know comes with the... Okay, so this is the Matsuri edition. This is the one that's... How much more? $30 more. Okay, we knew about the furoshiki cloth. It's got a 5th player board. It's got these wooden tokens. So right now these are... Let me just refresh this. Okay, a lot of wooden tokens. Experience tokens, train tokens, wild tokens, research tokens, happiness and stress tokens, 3 cloth deck and token storage bags, your player bits, every player bit gets its own bag, score pad becomes a travel journal, and that day trip expansion, and these ceramic bowls. So based on all that, on all of those wooden tokens, I think this is a worthwhile upgrade. If you didn't want to do that, though, if you just wanted like the day trip expansion, you could pledge the lower pledge level here and add that on. All right, so that is the new Josh Wood game, which I'll have to think about whether I'm going to back this myself or not. If you've played Cat Lady and you've played it with the wooden tokens, you know that it kind of makes the game. So I would consider that if I were you. Then we go to the Marrakesh Essential Edition, and interestingly enough, I was just punching my version of the Marrakesh Deluxe Edition today. Now, this is part of the Stefan Feld City Collection. So far, they've had Kickstarters for, they've delivered Hamburg, Amsterdam, Marrakesh, and New York City. And then they just completed a campaign for the 5th and 6th games, Cusco and Vienna. Now, Marrakesh was a bigger box than the other 3 games. I don't want to say it was twice as big, but it was maybe 1.5 times as big, just long. It's a longer box. And the reason is that there's kind of an outsized board in that, and there's also a cube tower. And the cube tower, you assemble it, and then you store it in the side of the box, so you don't have to keep taking it apart. So it is a much bigger box. And it looks like with this edition, what they've done is they've condensed it down so that it fits into a box that is the same size as the other boxes in the collection and just most board games in general. And so in order to do that, they've had to change some of the boards and components. So this isn't a, they call this the Essential Edition. The other version was called the Deluxe Edition. This isn't better or worse, it's just different. But if you have the Deluxe Edition, you don't necessarily need to jump on this. In fact, I think the Deluxe Edition may have some advantages to it, although it is bigger, which is a negative, I think. So this will come with a similar cube tower. It'll also get stored in the box, and then they've put these kind of 2 storage trays in this where all of the components are, you can store them. Now the Deluxe Edition came with a game tray system, and it was really good, probably better than these trays. But it took up more space. So what they've tried to do here, I think, is come up with a storage system that is smaller and more compact, and that way they can get everything into this smaller size box. So I think for my money, the Deluxe Edition is probably the nicer edition, but this will sit on your shelf more easily and fit in this smaller box. And let's see, I think they even have a comparison somewhere here. Let's see. Okay, here it is. So content, classical versus essential. So this is what the classic looks like, or maybe you have the Deluxe Edition, which has some upgraded components and things, but it is this bigger size. So this version will fit in a smaller box, and part of the way they're doing that is shrinking this board down. And this board looks like it's also been shrunk down, which means that some of these supply boards, they've kind of had to change shape. Some of these other kind of components, everything's been adjusted a little bit. It looks like even the size of these tiles, right? They've had to make everything kind of smaller. And the first game, the Deluxe Edition, it wasn't an outsized game. They've gone a little bit smaller in this to make everything kind of fit. Okay, but there's your kind of comparison. Now, if you didn't get the other edition and you're looking at this one, it's going to be $69, which is significantly cheaper than the original. Comes with this new Essential Edition and these 2 storage boxes. And it looks like with this Essential Edition here in the US, you're going to be paying $91 for the whole thing. However, they do have bundles. If you want to bundle it with Kokopelli, there's an early bird. There's a version here once the early bird is gone. And then you can also get the Classic Edition, the still bigger edition. But there are not that many copies. And if you're doing this, you're looking at $115 plus $29, so $144. So it is more expensive. And it looks like they don't have, no, here they do. They do have the Deluxe Edition, but this is even more. So this is probably the same shipping price, so $199 for this. And there's only 70 of these. So $199 for the Deluxe, or, what did we say? $91 for the Essentials. So the Essentials coming in at like half the price of the Deluxe. They won't have those nice wooden components, so you're losing component quality, and all the tiles and everything are shrunk down, but it fits on your shelf very easily. It costs half the price. Queen Games, Stefan Feld, and the artist, Patricia Limburger and Franz Vohwinkel. So Patricia Limburger is best known for Alhambra, 12 Thieves, Amsterdam, Old London Bridge, Skylands, World Monuments, Powerline. And Franz Vohwinkel is best known for Puerto Rico, Beyond the Sun, Dominion Intrigue, Clank in Space, The Quest for El Dorado, Targi, Magic the Gathering. I mean, one of many on Magic the Gathering. The older version of Ra, Tichu, Princes of Florence, Samurai. I mean, they're both pretty prolific artists. And, you know, Stefan Feld, great classic designer. But I guess the question is, did you not get Marrakesh the first time around? And or are you specifically looking for this kind of smaller, cheaper edition? Now, it has a funding goal of $10,000, so it's already funded. It's at $30,000. The campaign will finish on April the 4th, and it's going to be delivering, let's see if all of these are the same. Yeah, in July of this year, July 2023. All right, from there, we go to a game called Nekojima. Electrify the 4 districts of Nekojima with ingenuity and dexterity in this unique balance game, not as easy as it may seem. So this is it right here. It is, you know, these sticks, these looks like almost, are those monkeys or cats? But there's this crazy island over here. These look kind of like strings. It is a dexterity game. Funding goal, $8,700 or $8,600. They're at $33,000, so they're funded. This campaign will conclude on April 11th. It's from Unfriendly Games, who did one other game. They're out of Paris. They did a game called Virus War previously, and now they are back working on this dexterity game. And it does look like cats. You're hanging cats from these strings, which is kind of a cool idea, actually. Probably not my game, but I like the design. Very cool. Okay, so let's see. The base game pledge here, $41, comes with the Lazy Cats extension. Thank you on the box. And then they have a collector's edition. What is that? 86. It's more than twice as much. It comes with a wooden box, the Tori extension, a neoprene dice mat, a printed fabric, and furoshiki instructions. So there are a bunch of kind of nicer elements. Let's take a quick look. All right, that is the wooden box. Okay, so this is the Lazy Cats extension. I see, you're going to get an additional level to the game. This Tori extension, I see that it's this thing that fits in the middle of the game. Yeah, and so that's cool, right? I mean, if you look at these pieces, like, this whole game board is not pre-assembled. You're actually building this as part of the game. Okay, here are the various components. So there's the base game. And then we go to the items that are added on if you go to the collector pledge. So you've got the wooden box, the Tori extension, neoprene dice mat, and this printed fabric with furoshiki instructions. And the Lazy Cats extension. All right. Shipping. Let's take a quick look at shipping. Here we go. Where's this coming from? It's from France. So that just means if you're shipping to the US, it's not going to be cheap. Okay, so 25 for so it's 27 or 32, which means this base game is going to be $68, and the collector pledge is 118. So, I mean, it's getting expensive, right, for a dexterity game. It does look really cool, I think. But the question is whether you want to be spending that kind of money, I think, for a dexterity game. The question is, will it end up showing up in retail in the US? Because maybe you'd want to wait for that, but unclear. Build with dexterity the Power Poles network in the 4 districts of Nekojima. Action dexterity party game, dice rolling, stacking, and balancing. It is a wooden game of skill and dexterity in which you will have to keep an entire installation in balance. Players must take turns placing or stacking denshu, the electrical poles, respecting the locations without any hanging cables touching. But be careful not to be the one to bring down the structure. This game requires reflection, concentration, and skill. Let's see if they say anything about it being Kickstarter exclusive, because I think for US backers that would be a key factor here. In Nekojima, the cat island in Japan, an electricity network is developing to supply the various lively districts of the island. The installation of electric poles becomes more complex due to the narrowness of the territory and its curious population of cats wandering on the cables. This theme is awesome. An original game with certified wood. Why back now? Each copy is unique. Comes with a special number. Each copy is exclusive. Stretch goals only available now on Kickstarter. So I think what's going to happen is this will eventually go to retail, depending on how well this does, but likely without all of the extras. So it would be more just the base game. But considering the high shipping rates, maybe that's worth it to you to wait. They are well over their funding goal, $33,000 of an $8,700 funding goal. So this is going to fund. It's probably going to do pretty well. I think the chances that it will show up in retail are pretty good. The chances that it'll show up in US retail, maybe not quite as good, but who knows? If you really want it, back it. Get the nice version. If it's way too much for a dexterity game, then wait it out, I guess. But there's no guarantees in life, and I don't think we can tell yet whether it's going to come to U.S. retail. But it's definitely a possibility from the way they've described it. They have not said that it is Kickstarter exclusive, and a lot of their wording seems to indicate that they do want it to go to retail. Okay. Raven Manor. So we're getting near the end here. We've got 2 campaigns left. This one has a funding goal of $16,000. They're at $5,000. It's probably not going to fund. It is sort of a take on Werewolf. I mean, it is. It's a take on Werewolf. And it's going to fund on April 11th. It's from a publisher called Bear's Workshop. This is the first project of theirs. And I actually like the character art. I think it's pretty cool. It's themed around kind of animal characters. It says, how does it work? Everyone draws a character. From now on, one of you will be a raven. He will try to kill you. He will try to possess you. Family must kill him first. But if you've ever played a werewolf game, that's what this is. It's just the rules are going to be slightly different. And it's got this really bold black and white with red sort of horror-y card art. I like the graphic design of this. I'm not a huge fan of these kinds of games in general, but I like their take on it. But, they're not really doing very much, right? They're just taking a game that exists, that has a lot of other versions of it and variants and things like that. And they've made their own version of it, and it's not going to fund. So, and it's also, it's a first-time publisher, which you also need to be a little more wary of those, although with a card game, there's not really that much risk. It looks like their base pledge here is for $27. There's a PDF, sort of print and play version. They also have a more expensive version, a really expensive version with a store box. I would recommend not pledging that. And then an even more expensive version says the family version with an art book and t-shirts and things. But if you were going to pledge this and you didn't want to sort of throw your money in away on a first-time publisher, you'd probably want to go to this $27 pledge level. And I'm just trying to find a shipping quote. For me, that's always a warning sign if there's no shipping listed. I know sometimes, publishers today don't want to include a shipping estimate because everything is so up in the air and you don't want to be bound to it, but you still have to put that out there, I think. Even if it ends up being slightly off, you need to list a shipping estimate. If I pop it in here, okay, it just auto-populates. So for the US, you're looking at $43 for the whole game. So, it's just a version of Werewolf with some pretty cool art that's going to cost $40 in a campaign that is not going to fund. The last campaign of the video is called Tiny Ninjas Tournament. This was actually on Gamefound but they canceled that campaign, and they've relaunched here. So they had a funding goal of $7,300. They're at $13,600, so they are funded. The campaign's going to end on April 19th. It's from this publisher called Tooniverse Games. Let's see what they've done previously. They have one other... I thought they had one thing. Tiny Ninjas Heroes. Tiny Ninjas Battle in a Box. So this is their IP that they've kind of been working on and expanding. These Tiny Ninjas games. And these, as you can see, are also sort of action dexterity games, dexterity mini games. Everyone selects a player card and uses handy point clips to track their points. Configure the game box for the chosen mini game. Players each takes 3 turns with 3 shots per turn. The player with the most points at the end of the tournament wins and gets the tiny trophy. I mean, for me personally, there's some variability in this, right? Because they've got different boxes that you can get. But for me personally, as someone who doesn't play a lot of action dexterity games, so don't listen to me, but for me personally, I think if I was going to do something here, I would probably back that other one, the Nekojima. I mean, that's cool. It's going to be super fiddly, though, you know, to kind of hit these things, and unless it's really well produced, and even then, this is a game that I would probably find more frustrating, I think. Opinions, everyone's got them. Those are mine. Okay, pledge levels here. Tournament pledge, $30, which will come with the Tiny Ninjas Tournament base game, the Frostbite expansion, and actually, okay, sleeves. Then they have a champion pledge that adds in a puzzle battle. And, okay, this is almost expired. 11 hours to go. 48 hours only, Universe Pledge, and it has a whole bunch of stuff in it, which, that's because, yeah, that is just kind of an early bird price there. So once that's expired, by the time this video is probably posted, it would be about $9 more. And that would get you, it's basically the all-in, so it's going to get you all of the little mini games, probably not all of which come with the cheaper pledge. But here you can see the various things. And, you know, there's some videos if you want to check these out. Shipping, looks like the tournament. Okay, so the cheapest pledge level is this tournament with shipping, $42. That just comes with the base game and one expansion. The champion pledge adds in sleeves, an upgrade pack, and a puzzle battle, and that's going to be $71. And then the Universe Pledge, which is just everything, is going to be about $119 with shipping. So Tiny Ninjas Tournament, that is the final campaign of the video. So thank you very much for joining me. I don't know what you're interested in of these 12 games. I think the ones that I'm most interested in are probably Let's Go to Japan and Galactic Renaissance. Those are the ones I'll probably be considering backing and looking at more deeply. I'll be back on Friday with another video. I'll be covering the games that launched on Wednesday and Thursday in that video. It'll probably be a shorter video because most things launch on Tuesdays, which means I'll have a back half to that video. And in that back half, I'll be looking ahead at certain games that will be funding next week. So it'll be sort of your chance one last time to consider those games before they fund. The games that I'll be talking about are Alpujarras and Fisheries of Gloucester, Lore board game, Street Fighter V Champion Edition, Legends, and Wards of Stonefall Chapter 1, which is a print and play. I don't always cover print and plays, but that one looks very well produced and pretty interesting, so I'll be talking about that one. So We'll talk about some games that have launched, and then I'll talk in a little more detail about those 4 games that I think you might want to know about, might want to consider before they wrap up their campaigns next week. So that will launch on Friday. Until then, take care, play lots of great games, and I'll see you very soon.